Hello everyone, it is I, Mark Major, here at the Action Figuratorium. That's the name of the studio I'm in. It's a studio within a studio, as I like to think of it. And I'm a real big toy collector, and I like to follow other YouTube channels. I also like to follow sort of the ins and outs of industry news. And today there was a video dropped by the Specter Creative channel, which I have done a couple of videos, not directly, but indirectly covering not necessarily the guy, but more or less the guy's statements, what he said in regards to Masters of the Universe. And this is another one of those videos. And after I watched and listened to his video, if I take his sort of comments at face value, I have to then ask the question, is the Mattel toy company lying on their SEC filings, or is in fact the Specter Creative channel lying in his video? We're going to look at that today on this Action Figuratorium, so I think you guys should stick around. All right, so what exactly are we talking about specifically? Let's catch everybody up. There is a YouTube video came out today, September 1st, 2023. Specter Creative, he's made quite a few of these videos now at this point, in which he talks about how Mattel, according to him, sold the rights to Masters of the Universe, and they sold them to originally Hallmark in, I believe it was 1988. Technically not really Hallmark, it was actually L'Oreal, the French cosmetics company, merged with Nestle, who purchased Paravision from Westinghouse, which owned Filmation. And the idea was that through Hallmark, they were gathering all these different libraries of animation, all these like Hanna-Barberas and Filmations and things like that, taking their libraries. They were digitally scanning all the content and then destroying the original masters. And the idea was that they're going to have this huge library of media, and they're going to package it all together into a big conglomerate, and then they could resell that, which they did. And it can be sold over and over and over and over again, which it has. It has changed rights many times. It's currently sitting with Universal. Yes, that Universal. This is today's video from Specter Creative. I have it paused at the 2-minute 53 mark, in which he's talking about the original contract. He seems to think that L'Oreal, Hallmark, Paravision, Westinghouse, Filmation owns the rights to Masters of the Universe. In fact, the only thing that they really own are the actual animated episodes. There is a little bit of confusion in terms of rights of some of the characters, though, because part of the deal when Filmation started making the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe show with Mattel, remember the toys came first, the show came second. Filmation actually had a clause in which characters that they create, their own original characters, would be essentially owned by them, and Mattel would have to license from Filmation the rights to make those characters. Examples would be Orko, and of course when they did that second show, the She-Ra show, I think it was, and this is something that I probably need to look up to be more clear on, I believe it was a 50-50 split on who owned those characters. So a lot of the rights to characters of these, of the later show are owned partially by Filmation, which means Mattel, if they want to make action figures, has to actually pay some money back to Filmation. Sounds weird, I know, but that doesn't mean that Filmation owns the rights to Masters of the Universe. Mattel didn't sell the rights to Masters of the Universe. Why Specter Creative seems to think that this is what was purchased in the deal, I don't know. He was the brand manager at some point for a version of Masters of the Universe called Masters of the Universe Classics, which was actually sculpted by originally by the Four Horsemen. Then it was taken over by Super 7, the Four Horsemen may have kept sculpting, I don't know. But Mattel didn't even make it all the way through all the waves before they stopped producing it and outsourced it to a different company. That's probably another video on its own. We're just talking about who owns the rights to Masters of the Universe. And this guy, who is a brand manager, seems to think that Mattel doesn't own the rights or didn't own the rights to Masters of the Universe because Mattel had to, as I said, pay some money to the holders of the original Filmation contract, which would have been, I believe at the time, the guy from Specter Creative was the brand manager. I believe it would have been DreamWorks, who currently held the title. He seems to think that because of that Mattel didn't own the rights to any of the characters and that they were just paying, all this money to them because of that. I'm sure they had worked out a sort of a generic flat fee to use whatever characters they wanted to, and that way not have to like sift through who owns this, who owns that, just like here's some money, go away, we're gonna make some toys, that kind of thing. Specter Creative, he keeps saying that Mattel sold them and that it was then licensed back to them and that they would essentially lose the rights in 2023, which is the current year we're in. So, of course, he's got to make a video about it, which is what this video is, saying that the reason why these guys Mattel isn't talking about their toy line is because they no longer own it anymore. However, I've pointed out in not one, but two videos that this is not true. There's just so many legal filings out there, including trademarks, including a lawsuit in 2013, including the licensing of Masters of the Universe to a UK company to make some He-Man Skeletor commercials for. Plus, the main thing, which is I'm going to show today, an SEC filing. Now, the thing about an SEC filing is that is where a large corporation has to write down all of its assets, and it has to talk about all of its liabilities, and it has to talk about all the things that it makes money and where it could be endangered to lose money. For example, in the most recent filings, it said that the war in Russia-Ukraine has caused them to pause selling product to Russia, and so that could impact them. This is just something that they have to list. If they lie in their SEC filings, well, they face penalties, right, in the form of fines, and in some cases, somebody could actually go to prison. Now, if you lie on your YouTube video, right, you don't pay any penalties, and you don't go to prison. So I'm kind of more leaning towards someone who files a large corporation with the SEC is probably not lying due to the amount of penalties versus someone who runs a YouTube channel. Just an initial hit, but we're going to look. Okay, so this is where I have the video pause where he's talking, where Specter Creative is talking about the contracts and how they're thick and that how Universal may not even know what they own. I don't know what that has to do with it. These lawyers will go through anything to find anything that they own, trust me. But let's look at the SEC filing. This is actually from August of this year, and here we have it. Maybe I can, is it possible for me to blimp this up a little bit? Yeah, let's blimp it. Let's blimp it up. Okay, so action figures, building set, games, and other. This is the SEC filing of August 1st this year, including brands such as Masters of the Universe. There it is. And then they list their other brands, Mega, Uno. And if they have the license to a brand but they don't own it, they put the owners in parentheses. So if Universal owned Masters of the Universe, it would be in parentheses. Here it says Lightyear, parentheses, Disney Pixar. Here it says Jurassic World, parentheses, NBC Universal. Here it says Star Wars, parentheses, Disney Lucasfilm, okay? And they go on to say here on this line, as well as product lines from Mattel's owned IP, such as Masters of the Universe. There it is. They actually say in their filing that they own it in the SEC filing. Okay, so here's the question. You've seen the SEC filing. Is Mattel lying? Do we need to become whistleblowers? Should we report Mattel to the government for lying in their SEC filings over ownership of Masters of the Universe? Or is the YouTube channel Specter Creative lying? Ask yourself this. What are the penalties for lying on your SEC filings? Penalties including money and possible prison. What are the penalties for lying in your YouTube video? Nothing. So I think we can kind of conclude that based upon what is at stake, we can tell probably who's lying. And why do I think this person's lying? Because the only way they cannot be lying is if they were a total idiot, right? And I don't think this guy's an idiot. I don't think he's an idiot. Other people do, and that's okay. You're allowed to have your opinion. I think the guy is smart. Do I think the guy is genius? Clearly not if he's making these videos, but he's not an idiot. So therefore, most chances, the guy is lying. With that, I'll catch everybody on the next one. I got a really cool video coming up beginning early next week. You're going to love it. Stick with me. Subscribe if you can. Comment if you can, and I'll catch you on the next one.